Hello, Year 5. For your first lesson of reading, we are looking at a blurb for the book Return to Planet Dread. Now, you'll see that on the Google Drive I've put for you some Viper comprehension questions, starting off with vocabulary, going all the way then down to summarise. For your vocabulary questions, remember you only need to put a simple word or a simple sentence for the vocabulary questions. You don't want to waste your time thinking about, obviously, next year when you do your SATs, answering long, detailed answers for questions that don't really need such length, particularly 1-mark questions. Your inference questions is where you will need to write in greater detail, and I'm going to focus today in this video on the inference questions and model how you need to answer these. Your prediction question needs to be detailed and it needs to be backed by supporting evidence from the text. Your explanation question, also you need to explain this in detail using supporting evidence from the text. Your retrieval questions are really simple questions, who, where, how questions, and they only need a simple answer. Often they are only one word. And finally, your summarise question is, what is the main purpose of the blurb? And I'm actually going to talk about this question in this video when we look at this inference question. Do you think the blurb is successful? Because really you need to know the purpose of a blurb to be able to answer the question of, is it successful? So let's look back at the blurb, Return to Planet Dread. What is the purpose of a blurb then? So a blurb is at the back of a book, and it's often used to encourage people to buy and read the book. So if you ever go to a bookshop or a library and you're choosing a book that you want to read next, not only should you look at the front cover and the pictures and think about whether it looks like the type of story you would enjoy, read the blurb on the back, because that will give you a little bit of a flavour as to where the story's set, what characters are going to be involved, and what might happen. But it doesn't give too much information away for the reader, because otherwise what was the point in reading the story? So, knowing that then a blurb is meant to encourage you to pick up this book and read it, you need to think personally about yourself when you read this book. Well, sorry, the blurb. Does it make you think, yes, I want to pick up this book and read it and find out what happens to Captain Teller and the rest of the crew? Or do you think, actually, no, this book isn't for me? So having a look then at the question, it says, do you think this blurb is successful, and how? Now, because of the word how, that means you need to explain it. You can't just simply say, I think the blurb is successful, I think it's not. So your beginning sentence will be, I think the blurb is successful. Or, if you think it isn't, put not successful. Then you need to obviously think about something that's in the text that makes you want to read it or doesn't make you want to read it. So this bit here, there was nothing more he could do. Captain Teller began running to his only hope, the escape pod. That makes me want to read this book, because actually I want to see what happens to him. Does he manage to get to the escape pod? Does he manage then to get safely then to the planet after, when he's in the escape pod? So I'm going to put in the text, it says, Captain Teller began running to his only hope, the escape pod. So I've put my answer, I've put my proof, now I need to explain it. So this makes me want to read the book to find out if Captain Teller makes it to the escape pod and safely arrives. I'm going to say, because obviously I don't know yet because I haven't read the book, so back home or to the planet. But because it's a 2-mark question, really, I need to write a bit more. I either need to find some more evidence or maybe put another explanation as to why that quote makes me want to pick up the book. I'm going to put, additionally, the words, actually, I'm going to put the phrase rather than words. The phrase, because remember, a phrase is a group of words. The phrase is only hope makes me want to find out what happened prior to this point in the story, as something terrible as obviously happened, e.g. a crash, if they are having to escape. Let's just correct my spelling there. Okay, that would get me the 2 marks because I've answered the question, I've used supporting evidence from the text, and then I have justified that evidence. Okay, so that's what I'm expecting you to do for your inference questions. Okay. Hope you enjoy reading this blurb. If you did enjoy it and the blurb was successful and it did make you want to read it, in the next session we will be looking at an extract from inside the book. Bye.